You smile at a coworker, agree to a favor you don't have time for, and project a perfectly polite, unselfish attitude. But beneath that agreeable surface, you feel a deep, draining exhaustion. You are at war within. The Pathwork system, a spiritual and psychological framework developed in the mid-20th century, defines the human person as a series of overlapping subtle bodies, extending far beyond the physical skin. Your true thoughts and feelings create distinct spiritual forms, projecting an aura that pulsates with your specific energy. This field acts as an objective readout of your physical, emotional, and intellectual health at any given moment. Because your aura broadcasts your absolute, unvarnished truth, pretending to be fine when you aren't creates a massive structural friction. You are pushing energy in two opposite directions at once, and that contradiction is entirely unsustainable. When we realize that our true, unpolished reactions might cause conflict, unpleasantness, or put us at a disadvantage, we build a defense mechanism. We construct the mask self. This outermost psychological layer acts as a glorified, phony picture of who we think we ought to be. We paste on a superimposed goodness to hide our true reactions. Notice how the energy behaves once trapped. This rigid, artificial positivity forces a complete disconnect from your true personality. The Pathwork text argues that this specific internal blockage is the direct cause of emotional sickness. To cure this sickness, we have to change our approach. We have to stop asking, "How can I be a better person?" and instead ask, "Where is the falsehood?" We must actively hunt for the mask hiding our actual selves. Carefully, measured, tearing away the mask exposes the messy, chaotic reality it was meant to hide. Look at the layer exposed beneath the shell. This is the lower self. It is a psychological layer made of denser matter that tightly surrounds our true core. This dense layer is an accumulation of our deep-seated ignorance, our individual weaknesses, and our common faults. It possesses a strong will, profound pride, and a stubborn personal vanity that absolutely hates to change. This complex of character flaws and negativities directly parallels the concept of the shadow developed by Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung. The shadow represents the unconscious, repressed aspects of the personality that the conscious ego refuses to acknowledge in itself. True psychological and spiritual progress is impossible without first acknowledging this dense, vain layer. We cannot bypass it. We have to navigate directly through this highly resistant part of the human psyche. The lower self's hatred of change is incredibly powerful. When we try to force it to adapt without properly dismantling it, that resistance frequently manifests as literal, measurable physical or emotional illness. Because of this, the Pathwork methodology dictates a strict rule. When illness or flaws surface, they must first be accepted. They cannot be immediately fought, suppressed, or covered by another mask. The individual must then undertake the difficult process of exploring the deep psychological roots embedded in the lower self that actively generated the illness in the first place. Motivation here is critical. If you are doing this inner work merely to avoid physical discomfort, the resistance will hold. The required motivation is to seek purification and perfection strictly for its own sake. There is no shortcut around the lower self. Healing requires treating physical and emotional symptoms as a direct map leading to the source of your hidden inner resistance. Why willingly endure the painful, exhausting process of excavating your absolute worst traits? Because piercing through that dense matter is the only physical path to the actual center of your being. Beneath the shadow lies the higher self. The text describes this absolute core of who we are as our personal divine spark. We can visualize the physics of the higher self here. It is the finest and most radiant of all the subtle bodies. Because of its extreme spiritual purity, it vibrates at the quickest frequency. This radiant core is not a new skill you have to learn or a trait you must acquire. It is your pre-existing natural state, simply waiting to be unburdened from the dense, stubborn matter that has kept it trapped. The ultimate goal of this spiritual development is straightforward. Completely eliminate the lower self so that the higher self can manifest freely and without distortion. Achieving this requires training your inner eye. You must learn to brutally and honestly perceive the unpleasant manifestations of both the mask and the shadow, and you must do so without turning away. The rewards for this dedicated inner work are entirely tangible. It produces a progressively wider mental vision, genuine spiritual awakening, and the gradual, permanent resolution of physical symptoms and problems. By deliberately destroying the false mask of politeness and bravely facing our ugliest, stubborn truths, we strip away the shadow. We liberate our inner divinity. Achieving true spiritual and emotional health requires us to fear no evil, especially the evil hidden quietly within ourselves.